Hello and welcome to another episode of SPOILERCAST, a Hungry Gamers offshoot that aims to inform, entertain, and educate you all on one particular release from within the video game and or geek culture universe. And on this episode, we are tackling none other than a game that was released on December 10th, 2020. It's much controversy. It scored 57 on the PlayStation 4, 61 on the Xbox One, and 85 for PC via Metacritic. Developed by CD Projekt Red, published by CD Projekt, and condemned by many. We're talking about none other than Cyberpunk 2077, which is a game that follows the story of V, a hired gun on the rise in Night City, the most violent and dangerous metropolis of the corporate-ruled future. And joining me on this spoilercast journey, my podcast Ride or Die and Australia's most wholesome podcast personality, we're talking about Miss Ali Hart and Jono Peck. How the heck are you guys doing? It has been a very long time between drinks in trying to get this up and running. Maybe we could probably lead off with that, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I thought that was your intro for Ali, and so she got your Ride or Die.
I was also the most wholesome.
And most wholesome, and I was like, oh, what's he going to say about me?
I was going to make the joke, okay, but which one was I?
You can share. You can, put it on rotate. You can mix it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're here.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
We probably planned to do this podcast many, many moons ago, but due to a slew of issues and problems and bugs and glitch saves and all these things, it has taken us over 2 months to get to the state to do a spoiler cast for Cyberpunk 2077. And sadly, JP, you still have been unable to roll credits on this due to all these bugs and glitches and issues. So we're only going to get you for part of this pod until you got to step away before you get those final mission or final section spoilers ruined for you. But
yeah, depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, like it would break my heart if I was in your place and knowing that you've done literally everything on the map that you just about can, and you've re-rolled saves and tried to do quests differently and all this kind of stuff, and you still cannot get past this game-breaking bug. It would ruin me.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, and with this spoiler cast, it's just really frustrating because we could have recorded it a month ago, pretty much, but it was like, no, let's wait for the patch, like the big patch is coming, let's see, when they fix it, we can talk about the game when it's finished, when it's not broken. And here we are, it's still broken. And it's kind of like cutting our losses in some ways of recording it now. But that kind of goes to, the narrative of this game and the way it's been released and the way it's been received. It's just disappointing all around. Like I've got so many great things to say about this game. I put 64 hours into it, last year, according to my PlayStation stats. So if you include like the early weeks of this year, it's probably up to 70 or 80 hours at least. And that's with a good chunk of the game not accessible to
and
me.
without a payoff. Like, that's rough. That's rough. Like I've put somewhere between 50 and 60. I didn't have a look at my sort of playtime. I haven't played or touched the game in a few weeks. So I've put in 50 or 60, but I've managed to sort of get a couple of the endings played out and sort of see where some of the final story-based avenues could take you. What about you, Miss Hart? How many hours have you put into Cyberpunk?
I actually don't know what the full amount of hours are, but like I finished like playing it this week. So, but this is also me finishing everything. So I was also the person kind of holding us back because I'm not a story person. I actually don't like mainline stories that much, so I actually went around Night City and took care of all the little side quests that I could and pretty much try and clear the map, and then I went back to mainline story to roll credits. So
I'd say that's probably maybe tipping 40 hours potentially, maybe a little bit more, depending.
Feels like more, yeah. It feels like a little bit more.
If she's done all the side stuff, then it'd be way more, I think.
Yeah.
But maybe we can sort of start from our respective origins with this game, and obviously when you load it up, you've got a pretty robust and in-depth character creator, and from there you sort of select which 3 backstories did your V want to come from? So I went with Street Kid. JP, Miss Hart, where did you guys look? You went corporate, I think, Miss Hart. What about you, JP? Were you Street Kid or were you a nomad?
I actually went nomad. Yeah, I like being the outsider, so I thought, let's see how this plays into the game. I like being like having a bit of a chip on my shoulder as a character, so that's it makes me feel more justified about kind
killing everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. doing what you got to do to get ahead.
Yeah.
No one's done me any favors. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's cool that you have these 3 different backstories, and then the prologue. You get a different lead in. Like you start in different parts of the map and meet some different characters that might be unique to your backstory throughout the game, which is cool. But I never really felt, outside of a couple of different dialogue options during character discussions, that it was going to be like it was that much different to if I was playing as a nomad or a corpo. Like it was just, you get that opening that's different. You get a few side quests that are locked to these 3 backstories, but outside of that, it's the same game for all intents and purposes, right?
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with you there, which is a little disappointing, I gotta say. I went down the corpo life because just based on the trailer that they released when they were introducing you to the different factions that you could choose, like the corpo life looked really cool, like all fancy, all elegant, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want. And that lasted only for the shortest amount of time.
Which is a shame. Did you guys spend a good amount of time in the character creator to try and make your V as either close to yourself or just as close to who you want to embody? I know I do that with character creators. I try and make them look like me to a degree, and if I can't, then I just try and make them look badass or cool.
Yeah, I think I started out trying to do that, and then when I got to the hairstyles, I was like, I've got crazy hair, but nothing like the games don't really make my hair.
No.
So, and I ended up going with some kind of like red mohawky kind of looking thing with the shaved sides and everything. It's a bit hard, and you can't have glasses a lot of time in these games, so it's almost impossible to make a character that actually does look like me. I feel like there's almost a preset for you, Brendan, like the beard and the the short hair or the whatever it is. So it's probably a bit easier.
It's gotten a lot easier to make at least a very loose extension of myself in these games. They've got templates. They've got a lot of shitty tattoos, which I can relate to as well. So it's pretty easy to get myself into a video game these days. What about you, Miss Hart?
I did spend quite an amount of time, and I actually really enjoyed how the character looked. It looked very detailed in the character creator, but then I also found that once you loaded into the game, good chunk of detail just went out the window.
Yeah, and clothes at times. They
that too,
fall off your person at random, but
just disappeared. But I've got to say, with the character creation, especially with me, like plain old white girl with dark hair, I promise you, I ran into myself on the street in that game, just looking like me. So it didn't feel incredibly unique, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess a very important question. Which genitalia option did you go with? They gave us a few options. Obviously, you could be rocking the male or the female, or you could be a little bit androgynous. And then you had some sizing options too, depending on if you're feeling a little bit insecure and want to make up for it in the game, which I found very interesting. But, freedom of choice is great, isn't it?
Yeah, I just gave myself a nice rack, but then covered the below bits because there was no mystery, so I might as well just cover it up. Yeah. Didn't matter anyway because everything just kept poking out anyhow.
Yeah.
So.
It's great to just have the meme ability of something like this, but it doesn't seem to factor into the game at all. It's not like there's these scenes where you're staring at genitals or anything. And even like going back to what you said, Ali, it's pretty disappointing the lack of using the character model when the game actually starts. It might just be the PS4 version I was playing on. I don't know about PC, but there's no reflections in the game unless you activate a mirror.
Yeah, and it defogs.
And then it kind of like locks you into, position, which half the time never worked for me. And when I did it, it took all my clothes off. And, that I was thinking when they announced the third person perspective being the only option that we'd get cutscenes that would be in third person, like cinematics. And there's really nothing unless you're riding a motorbike. There's like no opportunity to see your awesome outfit, or if you pause the game to get, change your outfit. So it's just a kind of interesting, questionable move there to make it, a game that's so much about style and then not have that option to see your character more.
It is a shame.
Like, you can see it in photo mode, and I've definitely seen a lot of people taking advantage of photo mode. I myself, when I felt like I was banging, like I had the right attire, especially for my corpo life, like even I took full advantage of photo mode. But yeah, when it comes to actually playing in game, it doesn't really matter.
It took me a while to work out how to activate photo mode on the old Xbox.
Oh, me too.
I was sitting there going, where's the menu button? Where's the option? And it's just press the two buttons together to pop it up like they're bringing out as like a standard offering in games, which is cool. But it is a shame because all you really see is like your forearms up for 98% of the game. So you can see changes when you are going through the augmentations and the body modifications. Like you'll see your arms change ever so slightly. But outside of that, it's pretty one-dimensional as far as getting to check yourself out. And it's a shame because when you find that really cool piece of high-end gear that is just completely different to everything else you're wearing and you've got to put it on just for the buff, I'd love to see myself run around with a dumb bucket hat on where I've got this sweet motorbike outfit outside of that.
Nope, I refused. I don't care that I couldn't see my character. She was not going to dress badly. She was the most well-coordinated character in this game.
Yeah, no, I constantly had a bad hat on.
I had the worst mishmash of clothes most of the time. Cowboy boots, trucker cap, vest with no shirt or whatever it is. It's just some kind of mishmash just to get that better defense stat or something.
Did you find that, with certain clothes, some items would cancel them out? I would put a jacket on, and because the jacket wouldn't work with a certain T-shirt, it just took my T-shirt off. So then I was walking around with no top on.
And it sort of just decide when to show or hide skin with certain clothing combinations. Or occasionally, I had a few times there where my penis was just poking out of my pants. I don't even know why, but it was just out for the world to see. And I'm like, all right, this is the thing.
We'll get to it later as well because it's a big factor for me. But it's hard to know sometimes in this game what's a glitch and what's just a gameplay or design choice that doesn't work. With the removing of the shirt, I don't remember that happening to me. So I'm like, okay, is that how they designed it, or was it just a glitch that's specific to you? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and it's funny because we played on different platforms. You're on the PlayStation, you're on the Xbox too, weren't you, Miss Hart?
Yeah.
So we were both Series X in it, which
on the new one,
which was great. But maybe we'll sort of weave through this section of the pod spoiler free, and maybe talk about how we thought the story was executed, some of the characters you meet along the way. Things like that, and then we could maybe weave into our thoughts on the graphics and controls and stuff. So overall, I thought the story was pretty solid. V's a fairly likable character, and I guess you can make him as good or dickish as you like based off responses with characters in the game. And I like that how you interact with these characters opens up or closes off different dialogue trees, and also opens up or closes off potential relationships and friendships with these characters. So it's kind of cool to see that evolution go as you play as V and deal with people like Johnny Silverhand and a whole host of very memorable, larger than life characters throughout your playthrough. I felt the story was a pretty good, full, fulfilling, complete experience. What about yourselves?
There was a lot of times where I didn't understand when I was fully doing side quests, main missions, and which ones were actually going to link to mainline story too much. And I guess for the most part, that just meant that I was trying my best to avoid the mainline story just to do side quests. I did enjoy side quest storylines a lot better. I definitely think they were the key in explaining the universe, explaining Night City and everything that goes on. I was also a very avid collector of shards that were just left around and reading them as I found them and unlocking more information about the universe. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, I thought that the side missions, a lot of them, not all of them, but they tied in really well to the main story, especially the ones that were specific to some of the main characters like Jackie and River and Pan Am and Judy, and like some of those kind of felt like they were, because you needed to interact with them as part of the main story, and that's how you meet them. When they give you a task to do, it felt like it was tied in and connected to that main story. And I really thought they handled that really well, especially with some of the comments I saw early about the main story being quite short. It didn't feel like that to me because everything was so well kind of intertwined with those characters. Overall, that internal struggle that he's feeling as he tries to work through it, I'm really interested to see how it ends, I can say. And maybe I'll finish it one day. I'm thinking like it's possible that these glitches just never get fixed. So I'm probably going to have to just like start. Yes, like when the PS5, like the new gen update comes out in like September, I might just start the game from scratch and play through it again with the realized version of it. You know, play a bit different. And there are these different ways to play. Like I think we're going to get to gameplay in a bit, but from hearing like you talk about your husband playing the game, Ali, like being the full hacker compared to, you know, the samurai that Brendan was, and me being more of like a sniper, like it sounds like it changes your experience so much based on the way you approach combat.
As a person who has just only recently run credits and been continually playing the game since release, I'm already thinking about replaying it again and going and playing the male role, because obviously playing the male V will open different kind of options as well. So I'm actually thinking about doing that and seeing if I can 100% it that way.
Yeah, they did a lot of things well. Like, as much as people like to pile on CDPR for this schmozzle of a release and the game breaking bugs and everything, overall, like, I really enjoyed my time with the game. And, you know, sort of just quickly doubling back and putting a bow on the story and how they do continue and expand on these threads with characters, like just the sort of smartphone interface, like just getting follow-up calls or text messages from either the mainline sort of side characters or just random people you meet doing side quests that are nothing characters, but like you'll help this person, you know, get his car back and get out of town. You know, random nothing thing where you're trying to save him from some bad gangsters. And then an hour later, he'll call you and be like, yo, bro, I've made it out of here safe and sound. Thanks again. Check out this address. And you go there and he's like, that car there's my pride and joy. It's yours now. Like, just little things like that, I think, is such a great little attention to detail where they keep these relationships going, whether it be mainline characters or just little throwaway NPCs. Like, I think that's something you don't see in many big open world RPGs. And it's one of my favorite things about the game. It's just the random messages you get from, like, you know, you get a picture message from Judy when she's at somewhere or whatever else. Like, just these little constant crumbs you get thrown your way that just keep the emotions and the care levels high.
You even get sassed if you don't reply.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yes.
It's the best.
I wasn't expecting that. I was busy. Jeez, come on.
Yeah, so I guess sort of looking granular onto this game, like, I think we've all sort of landed that the story and the narrative is pretty damn well put together, and we'll talk some spoilers down the line in a little bit, but parts of the game that make this thing whole, obviously the controls and the combat is probably one of the biggest ones. I found the controls pretty good for the most part, but movement at times feels a bit janky. Like the movement itself isn't as buttery smooth as I was looking for it, as far as whether you're on foot, especially when you're driving a car or riding a motorbike. Like, these cars can feel like they're on ice skates sometimes when you just gently turn when you got some speed and then the car starts fishtailing and you've got to, you know, undercompensate, overcompensate for no apparent reason, which can be a little bit frustrating. But I liked the combat. I liked the mixture of, as you alluded to before, JP, where you could play as a street brawler and just level up your melee abilities, or level up your, like the way I went, where I was just like this super fast knife wielding madman that was just cutting people up left, right, and center. Or you could shoot from afar, or you could hack your way through, or you could talk your way into situations, you know, or you could be a stealth ninja and you have, hard detection abilities because you're so sneaky. Like, it's great that it gives you so much freedom of choice about how to go about just about every quest, mainline, side quest, random interaction in the game, and I really enjoyed that part of it.
Same. I thought that even like adjusting halfway through the game to a different play style was possible if you hadn't, gone too, like, I was kind of more balanced with most of my stats. I didn't go hardcore down one direction completely. So yeah, it was fun to kind of try a bit of everything and see what suited me best, and try and approach different situations in different ways rather than just sticking with the one thing the whole time.
I actually, especially at the start, decided to just mainline for things that I was very interested in. And one thing that I always learn, especially the way I play, is that I always need to make sure my health is a focus, because I usually like to go, not focus on regenerating health or anything. So I actually put a lot of effort into body. And what I found, especially early game, I was able to get into a lot of places because they have the ability of doors or gates that are restricted, but if you're strong enough, you can open it. And I was always strong enough. So I was already like unlocking like areas. I got a bunch of like legendary stuff that I'm probably shouldn't have picked up until later. Well, for most people. And then after doing the brawler body kind of route, then I started getting into hacking. So I guess in contrast to how the typical kind of tasks like that you usually have with adventure games, I would have gone down what would be classified, I guess, as an assassin route. So
yeah, so it's kind of cool. So on the top layer, they've got your attributes that you can focus on, which is what Ali and Jono mentioned. You've got body, you've got intelligence, you've got charisma, stuff like that, which is just your top level stats. And then underneath that, you've got skill trees where body encompasses. You've got, your brawler, melee focus. You've got how you handle guns and explosives. If you want to be more of a hacker, whether you want to plant, viruses in people's brains and, take over every security camera or gun turret in the world, stuff like that. So you can really go down one path and just become god tier at that, or sort of spread those skill points and abilities around the place. Like I was with you, Miss Hart, like I was focusing on body and intelligence a bit. So whether it be I could rip a door open to get in, or for the most part I could, hack that door to get through. So usually I didn't get to too many places where my ability level wasn't high enough to get into those areas to get that item, or not have to go the long way to finish a quest, which is kind of cool. And any sort of particular abilities or weapons or play styles you wanted to highlight as far as how you felt it worked in well with the combat? Were you guys, like JP, you said you're more sniping, so were you sort of hanging at the back of the battlefield and just picking people off from afar?
Yeah, pretty much. Once I got the Widowmaker gun, and again, I don't know if this is a glitch or if it's intentional, but I could shoot through cover. So it didn't matter if people were hiding, you could just take them out, kind of one-shot them with a headshot. It's because it's an energy rifle. Maybe it's meant to go through cover.
Is that the sniper you get from one of the brawls, the beat on the brats?
No, you get it during one of Pan Am's missions for taking out the leader of a gang, basically. Can't remember his name. It's been so long, but that's really handy. And I just upgraded that. Like I kept improving it so that it was always powerful. And speaking of like the ability skill trees and upgrading, one of the things that I didn't like about them was that even if you upgraded your stats to the high enough level to upgrade a skill point, you had to be also a certain level within that skill tree of that ability to upgrade sometimes.
Yeah.
So ultimately that meant for me, until I crafted like a million things, I could never craft a legendary item, even if I had enough points to unlock the ability to do that. And I'm just nowhere near it. Like you have to be level 20 in crafting or something to get there. And I'm like level 9 or 10 after trying to like kind of spam it and get it really high. So I feel like there's not a great deal of balance with that kind of thing. It's the same with the athletics. Like, you get athletics for melee attacks and for jumping and stuff like that. And I didn't do hardly any melee attacks until there was a skill that I wanted that I had to be like level 15 for athletics. So I just started going around attacking every gang member I could find, which isn't really the way I want to play the game, but that's kind of what they're forcing me to do in order to get my character to where he needs to be.
Yeah, they did that like with the Beat on the Brat side quest. For those listening, it's sort of just like a random offshoot where it's just like bare knuckle brawls against various fighters around the map, and the difficulty spike in that was absolutely bonkers. And yeah, as JP said, unless you're running around bare knuckling people during your mainline playthrough, your brawling abilities are so damn low that you get in there and you can just get smoked off like 2 or 3 hits sometimes. So it forced you down paths that you might not want to go down. Little tip, you could just buy the gorilla arms to get a little bit of a bonus and a buff. Like, you've got on your augmentations, especially with your arms in this question, you could have like a rocket launcher arm, you could have like giant blade mantis arms, or you could have gorilla arms, which is more melee centric, bare knuckle centric, where your mantis blades, you just cut people to smithereens. Like, it is terrifying seeing these things out and just slicing everybody to bits. But it's cool that you've got that functionality and that ability on the go, which I really liked.
So I might have cheated and had gorilla arms, but I also had a perk where if you punched with your gorilla arms, you had a chance of not only stunning them, but also like electrocuting them. So that was a bit of a cheat, unfortunately.
You can really stack the deck in the game to your play style with not only the tier of gorilla arms, like with most RPGs, you've got your different color schemes, your white through to gold, which is obviously your commons to your legendary or your epics, and having like some purple or gold gorilla arms with some of those buffs, just you end up like punching people. It feels like you punch them out of the map sometimes, like with a big heavy hit.
Yeah,
so great.
Just like watching them freeze, and then you're like, I feel bad, but I'm gonna keep punching you. In regards to like my play style, like I said, like I did build up the body stuff, but after a while, I actually didn't kill anyone. My whole time through the game, I used the electric baton.
Oh, yep.
So when you hit people with the baton, they just get knocked out. They're not dead. They're just knocked out. So I was using that, and then I unlocked one of these hacks. The hack is, I think it's called like hard reset, and that just knocks them out as well. So and I just became this person who didn't kill anyone, which really, really screwed up a lot of dialogue options when people were like, you killed them. I'm like, well, no, actually I didn't. If you look over there, they're still breathing.
That stun baton just made me think of Demolition Man every time I hit somebody with it. Tap them on the head and they're just immediately out.
I loved it so much.
I killed so many people in this game. Like, I don't know if there's a way in the game where you can sort of find it in amongst the stats as far as total body count. But my goodness, mine would be high. I killed so many people, and I'd always try, like I'd try with missions to stealth my way and hack my way in to begin with. But it felt like no matter how stealthy and crafty I was, someone would see the shadow of my shoelace through a window across a building, and then enemies were alerted. And I'm like, all right, well, it's go time. So then it was like I had my rocket launcher arm and my katana. So I'm just like... boom, boom, blowing people up, then speed running in with the katana, like slice, 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 cutting them to bits. And that was like rinse and repeat for a good portion of the game until I became more hacker man. But yeah, I cut so many people up with the knife throughout this game. It's not funny.
The ping feature is actually extremely useful if you're trying to do stealth. Like if you ping everyone that's within the facility, you can tap them so you know exactly where they are. And the other thing is obviously if you're knocking people out or you're killing people along the way is hiding the bodies so then they don't identify that something's up.
Yeah, no, I hit maybe 5 bodies in the whole playthrough. I just left appendages everywhere.
I just killed everyone. Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's like, it's probably something that's sort of a nitpick and gripe to a degree, but the police in this game was so frustrating in that regard. So frustrating.
Trying to help them.
You help them sometimes and then they turn on you. It's like you kill bad guys and maybe one of the bad guys' bullets hit me and ricocheted into a cop, and then you're wanted, so you're running away from the police. And it was just, they were just so dumb. They just didn't really give much chase, and there was no escalation as far as the police, as far as getting in, the special forces to get you if you keep running amok. I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity, but...
That was one of my gripes too. Like, the note that I put down was, you think about in 2013, 7 years ago or 8 years ago, GTA 5 came out. That's an old game now, but its AI and police system is, and even any of the GTA games, you go back to like GTA 3, San Andreas or something. And even those systems are more complex than this one. If you run over someone on the street, you get cops after you, and you pretty much just have to flee until they're gone. You can't take them out because they're overpowered to the point that they just get these robots to come in.
But you've only got to drive like 2 seconds,
exactly,
and then the cops are gone.
Yeah, so it's not like a issue. It's just a nuisance, and that's such a wasted opportunity for a game like this. I feel like they could have gone much more down the GTA kind of route with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of GTA, it's also the driving AI. There was a lot of times where I'd hit traffic and then I would hit glitches because of the traffic in game. Because if you parked somewhere or something was in the road, the cars would just start piling, like lining up one behind the other. And then I found that I would always have like issues in regards to like glitching into someone else's car or something. So
yeah, it's there's a few systems in there that were very undercooked and very rushed, and those ones, the driving and the parking of vehicles, and then just the lack of intelligence with the police force was ridiculous, because that would have added such a cool additional wrinkle to the game to have a really aggressive police force coming at you when you are getting cited for doing bad things. I think that would have been great and added a nice layer of extra tension to the game. But yeah, the game itself, graphically on the Series X, I think it's really pretty. I know Miss Hart, I think we've probably got differing opinions on this, but I really like Night City. I really like the surrounding, like all the different boroughs in town, and then when you get out of town, and as you know, you got the Badlands and just all this sort of nothingness going on out there. I liked those worlds. I constantly was in awe, whether it was a sunrise or a sunset, and watching just the ray tracing kick in and seeing it throw these lights across the open plain, whether I'm out hanging out with Pan Am and the Aldecados, or I'm in town and seeing light bounce off a big skyscraper and just splashes of neon everywhere and stuff. Like, I thought it was a really pretty game. What about yourselves? Did you guys think it was worth, like, it looks next gen or now current gen? You think it hits the mark?
I did, and people were very critical of how it looked on PlayStation, but I thought it looked fantastic on the PS5. Like, it is the PS4 version of the game, but the character models look so good, and even just random ones that you might talk to in a cutscene for like 2 minutes, like the bartender. Sorry, I've got Micah here for.
Yeah, he's giving us color commentary.
He's sharing some of his views on the game, but yeah, like screenshots with characters during cutscenes look amazing, and like whether it's Judy or Pan Am, like you get some amazing like little. They deliberately set them up with a beautiful background during these cutscenes. And I think, yeah, like you said, Brendan, Night City looks so good. But I think where it doesn't look good is if you look behind the scenery. Like when you're in a really, really tall building and you look out and the draw distance has just gone to 0 and it's just like unrendered models. And maybe that is a glitch that just happened in my game, but I definitely saw that.
No, it happened for me too.
Yeah, or if you look through a sniper or something and you zoom in with your augmented eyes and look at cars just disappearing into nothing in the distance. That's really kind of immersion breaking, and I think it's kind of like a limit of the hardware, I guess, because they're building it for the old generation games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I am excited to see what this next gen release at the back end of this year is going to look like. But as far as what we got with this base package, where they did clearly just, it felt like they went, shit, this game's too big for that old platform. 1 second. Excuse me. So let's just grab that draw distance and scale that down 20%. That'll fit into the game size and the cacheability or whatever.
But I had texture issues. I was playing on the new console and I had tons of texture issues loading in where I would be in the city and I'd just be wandering around and I'd turn around and a door just appears or a sign just appears. Jono, I saw areas of the world that I shouldn't have seen, and I saw the cars disappearing, reappearing, people disappearing, people appearing out of thin air, and I did have these issues. And there were times in the game where I was in awe and I thought it was very beautiful. I feel like Night City only looks good from the outside. And at nighttime, I feel like a lot of night scenes look better for obvious reasons. Obviously, it being darker, you can actually graphically make something look prettier. But for the most part, I felt like in awe of what the graphical ability of the game was. I wouldn't say it was anything too groundbreaking, unfortunately. It felt like a GTA almost. Even AIs in the street, they wouldn't load. I'd be running up to them and someone's hair would go from a very pixelated to then smoothing out once it's kind of loaded in. I actually have recorded a glitch where it says, I think, wireframe missing because it couldn't load in.
Wow.
So, yeah, I actually started recording things when it happened just because of how random some of the stuff was. So
yeah, there's some weird stuff.
There's some really weird stuff, yeah.
I mean, if you want to, if we're into the nitpicks and gripes, I do have a long list of glitches that I want to mention for my playthrough.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I've mentioned the game-breaking bug. I'll get into that. But first of all, you go to the map, and it's covered in question marks like all these games are. And for me, going to those question marks doesn't remove them or change them into another icon. There's just, most of the time, nothing there. And occasionally, if there was something there, it would be a whole bunch of dead bodies and a crate for me to loot. And then I get the item from that spot. And like I said before, I don't know if that's what's meant to be there. I get the feeling that it's not. Because sometimes it would say, crime scene or something. And I know that I'm meant to be scanning for something. And there's just nothing there. I didn't have any of the NCPD scanner hustles. I didn't come across a single cyber psycho. It was crap, wasn't it, Micah? Yeah. I didn't get a single call from Regina Jones. I didn't get a single call from Wakako. I didn't get any...
Oh, no.
I didn't get any bounties.
Any calls from Regina either.
I didn't get any convoys. I didn't have any calls from fixers. I think a lot of the stuff that's meant to populate the map and make it feel like a living world just wasn't there. And...
That's a shame.
That sounds like it's a bug that I haven't seen anyone else come across. So even if they patched my game-breaking bug, which is that I can't progress through one of the main quests, I just would have missed so much from this experience. And that's kind of why I'm not that fussed about starting a all new playthrough on PS5 when the update comes, because I know that it's going to be a kind of a different game.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's pretty depressing, hearing that, because the city, it is very living and there is so much going on. And those things you're missing out on, the calls and some of the random side quests and interactions, they just further build this feeling of life and bustling and activity and interaction out. It's kind of cool getting these calls and getting these little bits of information thrown at you, or you walk into an area and you get a call from Regina or one of the random quest givers. This is going on here. If you want to make a bit of extra credit, go here, steal this item, kill this person, whatever it might be. And it's cool that there's always something going on. No matter where you go in the map, there's always something that gets thrown your way. And the thought of just walking through almost like an empty corridor, it feels like for you, JP, where you were just going through the mainline stuff and missing out on all these fun little nuggets and stuff that gets tossed at you, or wings, we could say, because they're better.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to realize there was something wrong. I thought it was weird that the question marks would just stay there. So it was really hard for me to tell where I'd been and where I hadn't been. And when I was at the point of the game where, you know, because of the main quest bug, I was just trying to do everything else in the game, which means discovering side quests that I didn't know about. So that meant going to all these little blue question marks and, I've already been here. There's just a bunch of dead bodies here. It was, it definitely isn't the way the game was meant to be played, I've realized.
Yeah.
And there's so many characters. There's so many great characters you meet.
So many.
Whether it be the first interactions in the prologue with like a guy like Big Dexter DeShawn. You know, obviously you would have met him and played it through the story, but then interactions with like Regina and like what's that mission you've gotten stuck on, JP? It's with Wakako, isn't it? That's where you've sort of
so it's when you're with
from.
It's when you're with Takemura, the Japanese guy, and you have to go and meet with Wakako. But there was an earlier mission with Wakako where she's meant to reward you. It's called the gig, and that just never, like, I could never talk to her. Like, I'd go there and there'd be no button to interact with her. And I thought, maybe it will get fixed when the main quest crosses paths with her, but it didn't.
It's so sad because there's so many cool random stories and just like random interactions you have with these fixers around the place. You know, these side quest givers, these bounty hunters, or these, you know, little heads of gangs that throw some stuff at you because they're also quirky and unique in their own little ways.
Yeah, occasionally one of them would work, and I'd get a cool mission like that. Like, I won't mention because of spoilers, but it just was. I don't know how many. That's the thing. Like, I didn't know that this was a glitch until until other people were talking about stuff that I didn't see, or I saw a trophy for something and I was like, "What's this?" So that's the tough thing, is because there's so many problems with the game. It's just so hard to tell what's part of, like, what's bad design or bad, like, storytelling, and what's just a mistake.
Yeah. Kind of bit of everything really at times, and it's a shame that I think all three of us have had it's the same game, but we've had very different experiences. Very different. It feels like we've played three different games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you essentially played the non-buggy, barely any issue game. Jono played the worst possible version of bugs in this game, and I think I just got the generic user experience. I think I've gotten like the average kind of issue. Like, I had issues kind of similar to Jono where I'd completed, they weren't leaving the map, and because of that I can't 100% the first city, Watson, that you're in, so I can't complete it because it won't acknowledge that things are completed or it's glitched out. The worst glitch that I experienced was at endgame, and dialogue audio
just disappeared.
So I had to read it. I had to read what was happening.
I lost a few. I lost a few lines of dialogue through my playthrough. Nothing like too extensive, but there was a couple of quests throughout it where, the dialogue, I had it written, which was luckily fine. I could read the subtitles, but nothing was coming out of characters' mouths a few times. But my biggest glitch, and this was before their first major patch, was I got to a part in the mainline story where you're hanging out with Pan Am. Love you, Pan Am. And there's a quest where you're hanging out and you stay over the night in like this little highway motel. And, you know, the next part of the mission, you're going off to do something. But like after having that sleepover and then waking up and heading to Pan Am's vehicle to go about your way, the game would just hang. Like, you jump in the car and you start driving, and it'd go to load screen would cut to get you to the next place, and that load screen would just freeze. And I let it run. I let it run for like 30 minutes. I did that like a half a dozen times. I reloaded previous saves. I sort of picked different sort of voice options in the discussions that you have with Pan Am at the bar, and we're back in the room where you're sort of flirting with her if you want to. I tried every different option to no avail, but luckily a patch that came out like I think a day or so after, like it was within the first week of when this game released, that patch sorted that out. And that was the big bug for me, because I was so upset and so frustrated that I was just stuck. And, like how JP is now, he is still stuck. So I can only imagine how he's feeling 2 months on, where I was 2 days in and, climbing the walls and getting very angry. And, luckily it's been fixed and I got the full experience, and I've had a great time for the most part, if I'm being honest. Like,
yeah,
I've really enjoyed my time with this game, and some of the review scores, they are very, 60 odd on the PlayStation, where it's 85 for the PC. But on the Xbox Series X, it's been good. Like, I'd score it somewhere in the 70s, I think, as far as my experience with it. Like, it's not without its warts, and I can't wait to try it again when it is a bit more polished and complete with this next gen version. But I've had a pretty good time.
I think that actually does credit to the actual, the devs and everyone that's been involved in creating this. Yeah, because I ran into a lot of issues. I ran into a lot of bugs. But I still had such a great time playing it. So that's a credit to making a really good game. If it's, a little half-assed, maybe not polished, and I can still have a ball, then,
Yeah.
you've done pretty well. Imagine how good it would have been if they released it fully, fleshed out.
That's the thing that hurts, is that it had the potential to be one of the defining games of the generation. For me, it would have been alongside The Witcher 3, which I love for the past generation. But unfortunately, it's not the story that will be told about this game.
No.
I mean, I had another glitch where you'd go to a side gig or a side job, whatever they're called, and there would just be nothing there to interact with. You're just there, and you're like, this is the spot, nothing. So that's, if that's happening to people reviewing the game, you can see why they would just take points off. Definitely.
Micah is disgusted at these glitches.
I know, he's
got a lot of things to say about this CDPR.
He's heard me talking about it.
He's heard you not cussing under your breath at being able to not progress. But it's interesting. If this game, Jono, as you mentioned, it's going to be remembered at the moment in a very negative space and mindset. But I wonder if they're going to get any sort of good grace back and maybe almost have this Phoenix from the ashes moment when this next version does come out, and if it is everything we've wanted and more, and the subsequent DLCs they're talking about comes out, and if it becomes this sort of success story on the back of one of probably the most controversial and destructive game releases I've ever seen. Class action lawsuits left, right, and center. Now you're seeing bloody hacker man's got in and stolen the code and sold it on the dark web and all this kind of stuff. I can't remember this amount of drama from a video game release in my life. We've got our
Fallout
fingers.
76.
No Man's Sky.
I think this is
it's
it's worse. This is
bigger.
the worst.
No Man's Sky copped a lot of flack and 76, but this is huge.
Anthem.
Yeah, just the amount of legal ramifications coming out on the back of this, where everyone's, getting their money back and suing this person, suing that person, and they made a bucket load of cash. That's no surprise. It was the biggest digital game launch of all time. They were in the black day one of release of this game. So well done in that regard. But yeah, release the game that's complete, please and thank you. So we'll see what happens come the back end of this year, if it's almost going to be let's forget about 2020. 2020 was a crap year for everybody. CDPR, you're in that bucket too. Let's do it for, version 2 of the release.
Yeah, it'd be nice to think that it could have some kind of comeback story, but I think because it's such a huge game and people put so many, people like me have put so many hours into it already, I'm the more forgiving gamer. I enjoyed this game despite everything that I came into, and I think there'll be so many people, because it should be said, I got this game a review copy. I didn't pay for it. If I paid for it, maybe I would be a lot less sympathetic to the issues and everything like that. But yeah, I mean,
I paid for mine, and I'm not disappointed at all. Like I said, I've been playing continually since release, and yeah, I had the glitches, I had issues, but I don't regret my purchase. I'm hoping that maybe with CD Projekt Red once everything's kind of gone and cleared up, they'll do like maybe something similar with like I believe it was Witcher 3 where they did essentially an extension on the game of DLC, like an addition story, additional quests and everything like that. Maybe they can have their redemption there by, you know, releasing something like that and letting that shine.
Yeah.
I don't know about free, but
they need to make it free. If they charge for that after what's happened, it wouldn't look good, I think.
Yeah, like I think we're all three of us are probably very forgiving when it comes to gaming. Where like, I'll admit that this release and the way that they were so vague with their giving copies to the media as PC only because they knew that version was working. But then in the press releases, they're like, oh, the PlayStation 4 version was fine in testing. Like it was just this wishy-washy nonsense. So I don't...
He said it was like running surprisingly well on PS4, which is just... That's a straight up lie. Good... Like how can you be surprised when it's that bad?
Yeah, so there is some you know, marketing speak that I'm not a fan of, but the fact that hundreds of people are involved in the development of this game, and you can see like there's so much care and attention to detail that still exists in this game, and obviously they've ripped the guts out of it to get it out on time. You know, you see all the anonymous sources where they're like, yeah, this game should have come out in like 2023. You know, that would have given us enough time to build everything we've promised. But hopefully by the end of this year, we get a full experience and we do get a good story out of the back of it. And yeah, for everything about this game, I really enjoyed it. Like, I had some bugs, but I got 50, 60 hours worth of gameplay out of it. I had some great emotional moments, and
I might throw in some last criticisms before I bow out because Micah needs some food, and so do I. And I'll let you guys go on with the spoiler territory.
Yep, sure.
So there's something about this game where it was touted as this kind of like do anything kind of ultimate like RPG, and in reality there was a lot of barriers to choices. I felt like you couldn't really make your own way in a lot of sense. Like early in the game, it teaches you press this button to shoot out of the car when you're a passenger, and it never came up again. I never did that on another mission. When someone was driving besides me, I never had the option to go hostile. You couldn't just decide to kill a quest giver to get the reward for the quest like you could in, say, a Fallout game. And that was something that kind of bummed me out a little bit. I think that another Fallout thing that they could have adapted was the Fallout New Vegas.
Spoilers, Micah, spoilers.
Yeah, the Fallout... You want food, don't you? The Fallout New Vegas like gang system with like a loyalties and rivalries where you help one gang and it makes another gang hostile towards you because there's so much gang
I thought they were going to have that.
Yeah, there's so many dynamics of different gangs in this thing. But
you're good for everyone.
They don't remember you. You just kill all of them, like if you're like me, and it doesn't matter. So I thought that was a missed opportunity for a game like this.
Shout out to the Maelstrom gang though, with their crazy cyber augmentations, and they've become like synthetic spider people with friggin' metal all through their head. Like that was some nightmare fuel stuff. But I'd love that idea, JP, where if there was some real risk and reward based off alliances and how you play it off and things you do in the world, there was no real accountability for anything you did in this game. And I think that's a big missed opportunity. Outside of skill, outside of discussion trees and dialogue choices with characters, that's the only thing that really varies the outcome in the game. Everything else you do in the world itself has no real ramification.
Yeah. Everything had to be within the story, or within quests. Those could have effects on, where your storylines inside, quests would go, whether you'd unlock an additional quest or not. But yeah, when it comes to mainline story, not much would change.
Yeah. But still the fun, I think we can all collectively say we had a good time playing this game. Bugs and, back-breaking issues aside, we still had a good time. And that's the sign of a good game, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So put away the pitchforks and torches for now. Let CDPRB, let's see what happens at the end of the end of 2021. Touch wood. JP, do we need to say goodbye to you and the young fella?
Yeah.
You guys going to go have some wings?
Yeah. I'll let you delve into the spoilers, and maybe I wrote down some of my notable side quests. Maybe if you remember them, you could mention those too.
Can do. All right, Miss Hart. I guess probably the biggest thing we should address right off the jump as we go full spoilers is the loss of your beloved character. I think, well, many people's beloved characters, Jackie Wells at the tail end of the prologue. So this isn't even like classed, I guess you could say, as like the core game. This is in the opening, like it's a big extended opening. Like it's a several hour jaunt that you see, and this bond develops between V and Jackie, and you sort of come up together through the ranks, I guess, as far as, underground hustlers in Night City. And then he dies in your arms.
So I don't know if you guys remember, but like I was telling you guys how much I loved Jackie and how much of a great side character he was. And unfortunately with my kind of play style, like I've mentioned 1,000,001 times, like I don't follow mainline story. So a lot of the time I ran off and did what the hell I wanted in Night City. So for the longest time, you guys did not know that, like, you had to bite your lip every time I was like, and Jackie's like the coolest character. I love him.
Yeah.
And then there was that moment and I got very upset.
Yeah, it was a gut punch. And like I loved it. Like upon reflection, I love when a game can make you feel something. And that moment where like it sets up the entirety of the whole story as far as what this game's about, like seeing this sort of family, the Arasaka family, one of the big players in Night City, and seeing Yorinobu overthrow and assassinate his father when you're on this heist. You and Jackie are on this heist that was agreed upon with Dexter. And obviously it all goes wrong. Awesome. It all turns to shit. You got to shoot your way out of there. And in the process of shooting your way out of there, Jackie cops a couple and dies with you in this vehicle as you escape. And then one of the first decisions you get in the game is to like what to do with the body.
And it matters.
Yeah.
Did you know it matters? I didn't know that. And technically I chose the wrong option thinking I was doing right by the family.
Yeah, like and it's like it's something we sort of mentioned a few times in the non-spoiler part is, those decisions flow on and ripple through the game after that decision was made. And it was intense because some of these key decisions in the game, you get like a limited timer. Like you see the timer cut down, so you can't sit there and reflect on it
and
for
you panic.
a minute. You're just like, fuck, what am I going to say?
And like I actually didn't mention this previously when we were kind of like nitpicking. My only like major issue that didn't like kind of link up too much with glitchiness is sometimes with dialogue options you would read it and you're like, okay, that sounds like the tone that I'm expecting. You press the button and then it turns out you're being an asshole by saying it like that. There was a lot of times where like when it came to dialogue options and that stupid tricky bar, I came out with the worst answer, even though reading it to me, it seemed like the right way to say things.
That's why more people need to get on a telephone, have face-to-face discussions, because context in text on a screen can lead to some dicey situations. But yeah, that big opening, like I loved the world building in this opening with V and Jackie and going on these adventures and these random quests and building up that name and whatever else. And then obviously it's this big crescendo with that mission that goes wrong. And it just hooked me right from the jump. Like from that, like I was like, damn, I'm in, I'm so invested in these characters already. And like having to go visit Jackie's mother after he's passed away, or going to see Misty, like Jackie's girlfriend and stuff like that. Like,
wait, what? Visited Jackie's mum?
Yeah, what's her name? Like in
Mama Wells.
Yeah.
I never visited her.
Oh, really?
I had to call her. Yeah.
Yeah, like I went and seen her and spoke to her, and that's where she gives you
I didn't get that option.
Yeah, she says you can get Jackie's bike and stuff from there, and whatever else, like, so you go and see Mama Wells in the same, like, apartment complex that you're living in. which is a bit of a rat's nest. But yeah, like that really, really set the tone for me. And then from there, just constantly meeting these unique, larger-than-life characters like Royce and Dum Dum in that crazy, like, spider synth mob. And, you know, not too long after this, you meet Judy, who's one of the more important mainline characters in the game. I saw the eye roll there, so maybe we'll just get this out of the way. What's your thoughts with Judy? Why you got some beef with Miss Alvarez? What's up?
There's like a lot of times where she was just so moany and bitchy, but then like really contradicted what she wanted out of a situation. So there was so many times where I hated dealing with her because she would just change, just like her mood would just change like instantly. And I'm like, are you all right? So she like kind of bothered me a bit.
Okay.
She got better, like, and better is like better than being annoying.
She got more tolerable.
She got more yeah, that's the word, tolerable. She got more tolerable like later, like way, way later. But in the same sense, she still had the same kind of like, yeah, like just annoying attitude.
Yeah, like she had a bit of sass about her, and trying to woo her as a male V didn't fly. Kept having a crack because I thought if I just need that little slight door opening and I'm in, you know, but no dice. But yeah, she's one of the early characters you deal with. Great character. I like her character arc. I like the sort of final payoff you get with her where you go to almost like her pseudo hometown where it's submerged and you go scuba diving and you share these memories, and it's really nice and really endearing. And she feels like you talk about Jackie being your best friend. I think the way the game plays out, at least for my male V playthrough, Judy sort of replaced Jackie for me then as my sort of best mate in the game. When I realized that, yeah, there was going to be no romance options. You know, we're just going to have a great time. So we're chatting on the phone and texting and...
Dare you?
What?
I just replaces Jackie.
Oh, well, you know
ass.
what I mean. Like, you know, she comes along and she's now my best bud. So I thought it was nice.
No. It was actually really weird because whenever I play, I don't play as an asshole. Like I usually play as probably how the game kind of intends you to be, just, you know, a helpful kind of pal. She still tried to kiss me. Damn. Yeah, and I awkwardly did nothing because I had the timer bar, and I'm like,
oh, you just let it play out.
I didn't start. I swear I thought I didn't do anything romantic, but then she tried to kiss me, and I just stood there, looked at her dumbfounded.
That would have been a great moment to play out. I would have been pissing myself watching that just play out.
I felt bad.
Yeah.
She felt embarrassed.
Yeah, there is a few moments like that, obviously, with romance choices as far as where you want to focus and your heart or your sexual energy, because you can obviously have sex with the various escorts in the game, or you can romance certain characters in the game. But before we get to that, maybe we need to talk about Mr. Johnny Silverhand. Obviously, Keanu Reeves plays this character, and leading up to the game's release, it felt like he was just going to be, well, and I guess he is still, like, but a character in the physical sense. Like, Johnny Silverhand in the game, obviously we're full spoilers here, so yeah, if you haven't played it and you don't want anything spoiled, what are you doing still listening to the podcast? But
get out.
Anyway, he is implanted in your psyche. So he talks to you in your head, but then can sort of almost digitally impose himself into the world, but only you can see him. So he's sort of like this angel devil shoulder type of thing going on throughout the whole game. I thought that was a cool way to bring him into this world, and the interactions you have and the bond that you can develop with Johnny as well. Like I was talking about Judy becoming sort of my best mate after the tragic passing of Jackie, but at times it felt like Johnny was on that trajectory as well, because you can have some really cool moments with him. He can be an absolute fucking dick at times, but he's sort of like your internet friend. You know, he's your internet best friend. You never met IRL. Like, he's just through this screen in your head. So
I like there was a lot of times where people said, man, I don't like that Jackie character. Oh, not Jackie, the Silverhand's character, because he's such an arsehole. He's so annoying. He's so this. But then as I was playing and like interacting with him, every interaction, every kind of response I gave him, he was kind of like, he gave me the kind of response I was expecting. I'm like, I like this guy. Like, I love his company. I think he's great. Like, so he did replace Jackie for me. He became my new best friend.
Yeah, he's a good like, and I play these games like you mentioned. You're sort of like just this neutral, trying to be good for the most part character. So Johnny's a good foil for you throughout the game, where he is a bit prickly and smart-arsey and sort of disrupting a lot more, and how he sort of came to be. Like, we talked about that extended prologue where you lose Jackie, like on this heist that's gone wrong, the shard that you steal that you have to implant in your head because the shard cops damage on this dodgy heist, that's where Johnny Silverhand comes into the game. So you implant him into your noggin only because you need to try and keep this shard and all this precious info on it alive. But in doing so, that shard then and all its processing power is killing V slowly because it's just corrupting his mind, and you're losing who you are, and Johnny starts becoming more of yourself in a way, which is a really cool dynamic in the game.
And I was becoming like Johnny. There was like a lot of times where we were in situations and I know how I might have played it, but then there'd be like just a passing comment or something that Johnny says to kind of explain it from a different perspective, and then I go like, oh yeah, like you're right. So then I would change my mind how I would approach the situation. There was a lot of times where, you know, as much as Johnny was becoming V was becoming Johnny as well. So
yeah, like the whole underlying meaning of, you know, what is it to be human, you know, and all this kind of stuff, because Johnny, the more and more Johnny and V are both aware that you're dying, you start, you know, going down these rabbit holes as far as how you can cure yourself to stay as V, or there's an option where you can go, you know what, I can sort of, in all intents and purposes, reset my memory and let Johnny inhabit this body. So even though V's gone, Johnny still exists in V's body, and it's so cool, like these philosophical layers that come into this game as far as what it is to be you, and what it is to be human, and are you truly living in if you are a chip in someone's head, and all this kind of stuff. It's really cool, and the writing and sort of taking from the source material, it's really great. I dug it. I love like that cyberpunk and that sort of futuristic noir and science fiction and all that. So it was just great getting these things play out in front of me. Miss Hart, regarding spoilers and the story, is there any sort of high points or low points you wanted to mention in the game that you thought were done really well, whether it be character development or a big payoff or something that maybe just didn't hit the mark?
Yeah, there was like a few times where the story felt a bit stagnant for me and kind of dragged on. And I like, even though I was doing a mission and it was connected to the story, I didn't feel like it was connecting too much to the story. And there's obviously that one part where you reach an elevator, and that essentially decides from that point what endings you're kind of going to be approaching. So for the longest time, I didn't know when the ending was coming, so I didn't know how much of my decision making was going to be impacted on what kind of end game I was getting. So yeah, there's like, I had a lot of like unanswered questions, especially with my ending. I had actually Googled it just to double check because I wasn't too sure what it was trying to imply.
I'm excited to talk endings with you soon, because there's 5 potential endings you can get in the game depending on decisions you make and character relationships you get to certain levels. So there is some benefit for playing more in a completionist style, where you do close off loose ends and things for main characters, because it gives you the better options, you could say, as far as how your 2077 story could end.
Yeah. And like for the most part, I enjoyed every kind of like little interaction. There was a few things that kind of like threw me off, where I was kind of being forced into certain situations where I'm like, I don't think this is how I would have, you know, gone down this route. But one of my favorites was when you first let Johnny take over your body, and he goes off and like does like a bunch of shit. And at first you're like, oh no, he's taken over and he's just doing whatever he wants. And it's like, no, he had a plan. But just going through that sequence was pretty funny. I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome when you play as Johnny and it's just a drug party sex binge that he goes on.
Car accident.
Yeah, like it's just like it's that rock star life. Like obviously in his former life when he was living, he was not only one of you could say the co-front men of Samurai. I think him and Kerry was sort of, they both mixed up vocals and guitar. So he was not only one of the leaders of a very successful sort of punk rock. I'd say more. I'd class them as punk rock.
Yeah, the underground rock band, essentially.
Yeah, so they were one of the biggest bands from, 20, 30 years ago, but also he was a freedom fighter in his spare time, like a rock star secret agent, which is crazy in itself as well. So you get to see how some of that plays out. And when you mentioned how you get some options in the game where you can give Johnny freedom of controlling V's body, like old Vic Vector, who was also one of your favorite characters. He's a Ripper doc. So what that means is they're like modification doctors in the game. Like we talked about augmentation and stuff. So he can put eye enhancements in and brain enhancements and arms and all that kind of stuff to make you into this hybrid synthetic humanoid, really.
Yeah, think like a mechanic for your body.
Yeah. And Victor is a great dude.
I adore him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And just seeing him come back for the championship fight in the, Beat the Brat, where he stands in your corner and stuff like that.
I didn't finish it because I didn't want to let him down. So I tried to fight doing the Beat the Brat once and I couldn't win. And then I saw everyone saying it's very hard to win. And I didn't want to let Vic down. So I didn't finish it.
Yeah, you end up fighting like the world heavyweight boxing champion who was like the size of King Kong.
Yeah, he's got all these modifications.
It's ridiculous. Like there's no consistency in these fights. Like one fight you fight like twins. One you fight like a clown with a goddamn grenade in his nose.
I love him.
Ozob or whatever his name is. Just a crazy character. Like you meet him in a random side quest where you're just a chauffeur for the most part. You drive him to a scene and then he just fucking blows people up. And then you're like, see you, bro. Catch you later. And then you find him in a boxing ring. But, the Silverhand stuff's awesome. And I like that it really builds up and culminates with this part where you get the band back together. You go out and you meet all the old Samurai crew. Like one last gig, one big final show, and you get them all together and you're playing like Johnny Silverhand is back as himself as V, and you're playing the guitar and you're singing and you're just rock star moment, and it is so goddamn fun. It's one of the coolest moments in the whole game, I think.
Can I say what a really, really sweet moment that really grabbed me actually was when you're in Kerry's house and you pick up a guitar and you start playing, and because you're Johnny, like you're playing really, really well. And I just think it's really sweet that straight away Kerry goes, who are you? Because like no one else can play like that. It's like that bond that he had with Johnny, even though it was rough, like just having that kind of musical connection. He was just like, nah, like, yeah, I always thought that was so sweet.
I loved Kerry. So he's sort of the lead front man of the band, and he's gone on to have further single success in the music industry, and he's still a rock god. And having some more time with him and Rogue, who's sort of Johnny's old flame and things like that, just seeing these stories close up and sort of finish after 20, 30 years of just sitting idle after Johnny passed away is great to see a lot of closure for these characters. And even though you do have some interesting sex with Rogue at the drive-in theatre on top of the car, which I thought was...
well, I was a female. I was like, what am I going to do? I got
Scissor me. Oh, I never thought of that. I never thought about because you played
really
as female
getting into
V, Johnny's walking around as a lady. I never even thought of that because I was obviously male V. That's another wrinkle I never even comprehended.
So like whenever you're getting like raunchy with like Rogue or like the hookers, sorry, not hookers, the the dancers and stuff like that, the exotic dancers. I'm a female, so I'm a girl that's like, getting on girl and girl action. So but with that one moment with Rogue where it looks like it's going to really get to somewhere, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing because I ain't got the bits. Like, so.
and Johnny's never utilized that sort of toolbox before.
Exactly,
it's all new for him.
I think he makes a comment too, like about it as well.
That's so great. I didn't even think of that dynamic shift with just being a female V in this world. So that's awesome. But it's really great. I like the romance options. Like you can have some pretty strong bonds with some characters. Like Kerry you can hook up with. River Ward is a character we haven't mentioned till just now, who's like this big hearted and just big in stature man. Who's like a detective on the police force, and you meet him through a side quest and forge this big bond in like a missing persons case, and it's really beautiful. But I just wanted to shout out Pan Am, because obviously she is one of the leaders of, you could say she's like a general in the Aldecados, which is a clan, like a nomadic clan, and she is a phenomenal character. Gorgeous inside and out, and I just fell in love with her from like the second I met her in the game. I didn't even know she was going to be like a major character and a major player in the story. I just saw her and I'm like, oh my God, please have all my children. I love you so much.
To me, she just seems so confrontational and unnecessarily confrontational, and we don't get actually much about her past to justify why she is the way she is. Like, she's not really big on following the rules or, kind of holding back a little bit. She is family oriented, but sometimes it felt like she made decisions just to be just to conflict with the status quo, just to, get up on, Saul's ass, just to, be a little bit of a bitch. So it was genuinely really hard for me to like her as a character, because there was a lot of things that she did that I was just like, bitch, calm down, okay? Like, can't you see it from his perspective, and why are you the way you are? So like her and Saul's conflict, like the big problem with those two, they're both very headstrong. They're both like, my way is the right way and the best thing for the Aldecados, and neither of them would compromise. But like, I think with meeting some of the other members of the Aldecados, it felt like more of them were gravitating and siding with Pan Am's way of life. And that's why I'm like, okay, I get why you're so headstrong, because it's the best thing for your people. And you got like, she sort of was open to adapt in the way the Aldecados did business. She was more of a risk taker. She saw she saw a lot of opportunities that, required risk, where Saul was more concerned about the family and almost trying not to create waves, like, kind of thing. So I did see it from both perspectives. So, and he came around to it anyway, didn't he? So.
Yeah. And like, depending on how things go, you get made an honorary member of the Aldecados, and you get a very unique jacket that, like, we were talking about how it strips clothes. Like, if you're not wearing a t-shirt, it shows like from sort of your chest down, it shows your stomach, like it's a zipped up jacket from like your neck to your pecs.
I don't know if I got the jacket.
Maybe you didn't get honoured enough as a member of the Aldecados.
Did you get the statue?
No.
To do the funeral for Scorpion?
No.
Ah, okay. So I was about to say spoilers, but that's where we're here. So if you help Mitch, send off Scorpion. Scorpion or Scorpio? Scorpion, right?
I think it's Scorpion, yeah.
Yeah. He wants to send him off in a special way as he's requested. He wanted to go in a blaze of glory in his car. And if you do everything Mitch says, no matter how fucked up it sounds, which means taking the car to the edge of a bridge that has it just drops, and then he lights it up. You light up the car, it gets driven off the edge of the cliff and it explodes. If you do all what Mitch says and respect what, Scorpion's wishes were, you actually get a scorpion, like from Mortal Kombat figurine. Like it looks similar. So, and then you can put it in your house.
That's so great. No, I never got that. I never did that that little extension and the sort of, I guess, the funeral service for him.
Yeah.
But I love that there's so many, it's something I guess we've talked about constantly through this potty is there's just so many little side things to do that can lead to unexpected payoffs
and just different experiences, it seems.
So diverse. Like, I've got no real interest in talking about like the Delamain rogue AI car quests.
I didn't do it.
I think there's 7 or 8 of these like replacing taxis in Night City. There's this Delamain car service, which is like a sentient car that can pick you up and drive you around, and a few of these cars have gone rogue or broken, and you've got to go find them and like wrangle them, almost like breaking in a wild horse to bring them back. Like, I didn't really care for that. I'd do them if they just randomly popped up and I was in the area, but I didn't care about that. Hunting down the sort of the cyber psychos, like these just crazy, excessively augmented people that have then gone a little bit mad. I did a fair few of them. But I didn't pay attention at the time where
she told you to not kill them.
Yeah, not kill them. So like, because these guys are aggressive as fuck. Like they're shooting rockets at you and flamethrowers. Like they're trying to rip you in half, and it's hard to just passively, use the old Demolition Man bloody boomstick to just incapacitate them. I killed so many people.
I knocked them all out, and I was actually able to finish it. And so far, there's no payoff.
Well, I don't feel as bad then. Like, I certainly probably 60-40 as far as kills to ones I managed to just incapacitate.
Yeah. I just want to wind back to regards to romance options, because the way that I chose, like, I probably wouldn't have romanced anyone as female V because none of the characters were appealing to me, but I knew we were doing this. Vic.
You would have romanced Victor if you could.
He was a sweetie, but obviously they weren't going to let me do that. So because I kept on hearing about Pan Am and I kept on hearing about Judy, and I'm like, all right, well, since I'm a female V and we're going to do the spoiler cast, I decided to do the romance option with River, and I regret it so much. He's such a whiny, almost like gaslighty kind of asshole boyfriend.
Jesus
where he's just
Christ.
like, so what are we? I really want us to be in a relationship. Like, you got to tell me the truth. You got to be honest. Like, I don't care. I'm like, And then there was a moment where I was Johnny, like I was under his control. And between that time, Rivers, like, he SMS'd me, and because I couldn't access my phone, he's then like, oh, I guess you're busy with Johnny then. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and and my game was glitched that anytime I called him, he would just hang up on me. He'd be like, speak later.
No, like, I don't think he was just still pissy from you ignoring him the day before.
So, and the romancing, obviously each romance you usually like, unfortunately, like you have like a bang session think about this now. With Rivers, you just solved the crime of like his nephew, right?
Yeah.
And being with a serial killer. And then you solve that crime. He's gone through some traumatic stuff. You do the romance option where he takes you to that house, that family home that you're dealing with, literally points to the kids' room and goes, shh. And I'm like, we're not doing it here. We're not doing it. No, you do it right next to the bedroom of the kids.
Yeah, it's
and I'm like, this is disgusting.
I never had that payoff with River, but like I played through his full sort of arc, and there's moments when you male V where you get that option, and you can see that I think River swings both ways in the game. Like I can't remember 100% from reading up in the actual facts, but
I think you can get the option because I had the option to get raunchy with Pan Am, but obviously it doesn't lead anywhere. And I also had the option to kiss Carrie, but I obviously knew that doesn't lead anywhere. So I didn't want to ruin anything.
They're a bit sneaky like that, where they give you these options even if they say a hard no. Like as a male V, they give you options to try and swoon and woo Judy all the time, even though you know she's a lesbian character. So it's sort of, it gives you this false hope, and then it just stomps you down where she's like, buddy, you know, it's not like that, you know?
I would have felt
It's
terrible because, like, I don't know, like, a part of me is kind of like, don't give me the option. Like, if that kind of conversation or that kind of experience would have happened in real life. So for you to, like, almost push yourself onto someone who clearly is not interested, just, it felt really off to me, like, especially because I knew, like, I'm like, why did the kiss option come up with Carrie? I know that this isn't a romantic option. So it
the
kind
old
of like,
bait and switch.
yeah, and like, I had already decided to be in the relationship with Rivers, but then Judy still tried to kiss me, and that's why it really threw me off. I was like, I'm already in a relationship, like, so
I love that you've got that same mentality. Like, I slept with, like, some of the random, like, street escorts and things like that, but then once I met Pan Am and we got serious, I was like, no, she's my lady, not touching anybody else. Like, she's my forever. She's my ride or die. You know, we're going to grow old together out in the middle of nowhere, living our nomadic life in an RV or something. Who knows? But, like, yeah, once Pan Am and I did the deed in a crazy, like, cyberpunk tantric avatar sex scene almost, like, it's something. Like, it was very sexy and spacey. I loved it. I
assumed the Pan Am one was going to happen in the dingy, ugly hotel.
No. You know how you steal like military tech, like this sort of tank?
Yeah.
You actually, because in that tank you interconnected, where one of you is connected, like, subconsciously as the gunner and one's the pilot. You have sex when you're jacked in, and it's like next level. Like, even like, talk about Demolition Man again. You know how they have sex with the helmets, and it's sort of like that, but obviously physically they have it as well, and it's like that in it. It's like, oh my goodness gracious, I am in love here even more.
Clearly the worst one, because
you went down a wrong path.
It was so bad, and I was just doing it for this damn spoiler cast, so I actually had something to report back, and it was just horrible. He takes you to a special spot, which is
up in the water tower or whatever it is.
Looking at, you know, all the caravans and everything like that. And I'm like, this isn't that special. Yeah. And then, you go and do it in a bedroom next to kids, and it's awkward in the morning. Oh, fun fact. After that whole experience and having that really awkward conversation about him wanting to be in a relationship and whatever, I didn't know that my clothes had changed. So after dealing with him, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and hang out with Judy. Little did I know that I was only wearing River's shirt. Running around Night City half naked.
Yeah. I liked like, to a degree with that, like, if you were having a sexual encounter or sleeping or whatever, even though when you go sleep in your apartment, you lie across the bed, not even on the fucking pillows.
Weird position, yeah.
Yeah, very bizarre. But, like, when you have a shower or whatever and you take your clothes off, the game, or at least from what I can remember.
No, you don't take your clothes off in the shower.
Oh, you don't?
No.
They stay on?
Every time I went in the shower, my jacket was on.
Oh. But, like, well, in these other moments where you're sleeping or having coitus, engaged in coitus, do you have coitus? I don't know. Engaged in coitus. Yeah. Making the beast with two backs. You know, when the clothes are off, after that scene's done, for the most part, you are still in your nutty. So you got to be mindful to put your clothes back on. Otherwise, you're walking around with your bits hanging out and whatever else. But that's when, like, I put my pants on after having sex with one of the I think, like, the Asian sort of escort you meet in Night City there. Had slept with her. Put my pants back on, and then my penis was just hanging out the front of my pants. And it stayed like that for a few hours. Like, every time I'd go into the inventory, my dick was hanging out. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do here.
I was a bit mean because after denying Judy her kiss in the, like, little hut by the water, it's like you wake up in the morning and it's like, put clothes on. I'm like, no. And then I go out on the jetty to meet Judy. So she's like, here, have a coffee. So she's all dressed and everything. I'm just sitting there with my tits out drinking coffee on the jetty.
What a good way to start the day.
Yeah. That's how you should start every morning.
Just weird little sort of, clothing breaking bugs like that. But as far as spoilers, like the story does take some crazy turns and it goes real like science fiction-y as far as having to go into this almost virtual matrix and find Johnny Silverhand's ex-lover who's Alt Cunningham, who becomes part of this like space futuristic mental archive of everybody's lives, you could say. Like everybody's life is saved on like this data drive in the cloud. And you go into the cloud and you do all this crazy stuff, and amidst that you're trying to work out what's going on with the big family situation with the Arasaka family, jostling for power, working in with Takamura, who was
I also love. I would have preferred
he's a great character.
I would have preferred to romance Takamura.
And I love that you're meeting with him a few times and you're eating ramen or snacking down or having a joke about food and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was Saburo, who was the old head of the Arasaka family who got assassinated. He was his bodyguard. Like protector, his bodyguard, and he then gets ousted from the family, and you're working with him to sort out this big conspiracy going on with Yorinobu trying to overthrow the family and take control of everything, and he's just not a good dude. And that's sort of the main threads. That you've got that story, and then the other story about Johnny and V's finite life cycle left and what to do there, and it all sort of comes to a head in the final act, where you've got those 5 potential endings that play out. Miss Hart, what ending did you end up getting? Like, what happened in your playthrough of Cyberpunk? What happened to your V?
So there was a defining moment that I shared with Johnny when I got his dog tags, and you're in that hotel where he's kind of helped you sort yourself out, and you were in this hotel room, and he kind of had a conversation about his time in the war and just like looking out for each other and being through so much. And it was like this comment where he said, if there's a moment where I could have your back, I would do it. And I said, me too. I was like, okay. And so when that decision came where he's like, let me do this, let me fix it, I went, all right. So I took the rogue path and I let him get his final hurrah. So
that's great.
I took the rogue path.
That's a good payoff, that story. Like it gets to a point in the game where the options that sort of present themselves with you are you can let Johnny take over your consciousness and be Johnny and live a full life with V's body as Johnny, or you can say, no, I'm gonna, I'm V, this is my body, sorry brother, but we're gonna upload you back into the cloud, you could say, and I'm gonna just let my days play out. And that's what I did. So I asked Pan Am for help and got the Aldecados involved.
Oh.
And you go through it all and you overthrow the big bad and you kill Adam Smasher. We haven't even mentioned him until now. Adam Smasher.
I love that character.
He's a memorable first impression with him, like where you watch, like very rapey and very foreboding, but then you don't deal with him at all until the end. Like you should have had some exchanges with him throughout the game, like some little mini boss battles with him.
He gets referenced a bit, like they mention him, but you don't actually. And he was easy to defeat, by the way.
Yeah, old Samurai Blade and Rocket Arm was an easy cruise through with old Adam Smasher.
Cyberware malfunction and an electric rod. Easy.
Giddy up. But yeah, so that boss battle was very weak. Like you have some pretty cool exchanges throughout the game, but that as sort of like the final fight was like, okay. But anyway, I asked Pan Am for help. She rallies the troops and you go through this big, like, almost like storming of Area 51 type of vibe going on, where you get your crew in and you're fighting countless amounts of enemies. You get through, you save the day, and then it sort of jumps forward a little bit, and you and Pan Am are just cruising out into the desert together, enjoying these last 3 or 6 months of life that you have. So it's really nice. Like you have a couple of real beautiful moments with each other, and just this love and this bond you've got with V and Pan Am, knowing that you're ultimately you've heard rumors that there's someone like way out in the boondocks that might be able to cure you, and the journey is you're going to get there and try, otherwise you're just going to die with your ride or die.
So you did 2 endings, right?
I've played through 3. So
which ones did you do?
Yeah, so I did ask Rogue for help, so I got
Okay.
your ending as well. I got the Pan Am one, and then just to see what it was like, I tried I guess you could say the bad ending where you just kill yourself, and it was so fucking morbid, and I was so sad. This was the third ending that I got, but holy moly, like it just made me feel sick afterwards. Like, and not many times in gaming have I felt that way, but just taking the easy way out, or the path of least resistance, as the ending's known as, where you just put a gun to the dome and say sayonara. Like, yeah, it was very, very sad and heavy and just not good.
Like I mentioned before, like with doing the ending that I did with working with Rogue and as Johnny, like for the most part I actually really, really enjoyed the ending. Like having that confliction between you and Johnny, like Johnny seeing you as V, and having V like pushing him and trying to deter him from his decision of walking into the well and essentially taking himself away from V and giving her life back, his life or whatever. That was really that really hit me, because it was like Johnny accepting he did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
But then I hated it because I woke up next to fucking rivers. In this
Damn
really
you,
nice apartment. Like, I'm, you're top dog. You're the best. You like you promised Jackie, you're in the big leagues. But yeah, I had to deal with Rivers. And then had a confrontation in the kitchen. So what's going on? And I was like, dude, I'm dying. Like, what do you want from me?
Just let me live, River, you motherfucker.
So I had to deal with that moment. And then, you go back to the afterlife. And because, unfortunately, Rogue dies in the confrontation with Smasher, you run the afterlife. And then you deal with Mr. Blue Eyes, who you, depending on what kind of quests you do encounter in the game, and you're doing a massive heist on a casino in space. You do see ads for this casino throughout the game if you watch the TV or if you read a few things. But then the way it ends is you grab your gun, you put on your suit, and you're like floating in space, and you see the world below you, but then it just kind of stops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I Googled, I'm like, did I die? Because I saw that
you're just taking a moment to feel weightless or something. I don't know.
It was like, well, because they focused on your suit, and your suit says Arasaka, and you're finding out that like shit's going down, like the company's losing stocks, they're, deteriorating, they've lost the, society's trust, they don't trust them anymore. And it's like, are they suggesting that my suit didn't work, or like what happened here? So I had to actually Google what the hell bloody happened at the end there. But I think it's probably one of the best endings, because I feel like Johnny gets his redemption, and you have that moment with Jackie about being, having Night City at your feet, and so it ends with the world at your feet.
Yeah, it goes sort of full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but some big emotional moments in this game. Some high highs and some low lows, especially with those endings and which way you go. But it was nice that I guess we both got probably our preferred, outside of waking up and dealing with River on your side of the fence. I think you probably got the ending that probably wrapped up your story the most appropriately, and I got the same. Like, as I said, I was all in with Pan Am, and been able to sort of see out my days with her and potentially find a cure to this, mental degradation in the future. Who knows? Like, there is a couple of DLCs that are on the roadmap. I don't know if they're going to be dropping this year. It might be next year now, because this next gen release is the primary focus. But I'm really curious to see what they do with the DLCs. Like, I'm thinking one of them might be back in pure Silverhand's shoes. So you maybe go back to the wars you said and sort of play a bit more of his origin stories, maybe? What do you think?
I don't know, because Cyberpunk is essentially set in the city of the time frame, right? And for them to do additional content, would they completely create this city? Because it'd have to be way back in time.
There'd be a lot of artifacts and redevelopment they need to do to age the place.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of theory that one of my favorite side quests that I got to do was the Perales side quests with Jefferson and Elizabeth, and Jefferson's to be mayor, like he's campaigning to be mayor.
Yeah,
and
they were cool quests.
The first bunch was great because you did a lot of detective work, and you got to do the brain dancing stuff. And then the second batch, where you find out they're being mind controlled. Him and his wife are being controlled behind the scenes. You find this hidden back room where people have been watching them. And then you have the choice. You have the choice to either tell Jefferson, because Elizabeth, his wife, is like, don't tell him. Just let us live our life. You had the choice to tell Jefferson, don't worry about it, everything's fine, or tell him the truth. And I was like, fuck that, I'd want to know. And so I told him the truth. And at the end game, you got a lot of video calls from everyone saying, hey, how you going, kind of thing. And you get one from, well, for me, I got one from Jefferson where he's like, you got to call me. My wife is giving me these pills. She says it's vitamins, but I don't think it is. Everyone thinks that that's going to be a DLC.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm really curious to see where they go with it. There was obviously things in the initial announcements for this game. There was going to be a multiplayer component. Will that just take the place of one of these two DLCs? Maybe.
I hope so. I want to run Night City with you guys.
If we could run around and do similar with GTA and do heists and stuff together, that would be phenomenal. So I'm holding out hope for stuff like that. I just don't know with the DLC, what do you do? Especially with how some of these endings play out, you can't really have DLC continuing the story depending on those choices.
Could.
So
they'll probably, and it will suck, but I think they'll do something where the DLC, you might have extra stories on the pathline, but I think it will be kind of like what you did with Pan Am, where it's there's some person out there that might be able to fix you.
And it sort of can't, if you made one of the other final choices, it'll just cancel that out and that never existed. You actually did this, and you're on your way to Arizona, I think, or wherever it was, to find this person that might have the cure. I'd love to continue that story and play more with V and see where it goes. And I'd love to see a sequel, but I don't really know what they'd do. Yeah. I think this might be sort of a one-shot. Outside of the DLCs, I think that is the crux of this game. That is everything we're going to get.
Yeah. Build on the multiplayer.
Yeah, God. A Cyberpunk 2077 GTA Online equivalent. Sign me the heck up for some of that.
Hell yeah.
I'll buy it. I don't care. Charge that out. Give it to me. Give it to me, because that'd be fun. But yeah. Miss Hart, anything else you want to say before we maybe close this episode down?
I'm definitely going to play through this again. I think I might wait maybe till they up the performance for the new gen consoles. I want to play as a male character because of all the romances. The only one that I liked was Kerry.
Yeah, he's great. His storyline is so fun. Some of the things you get up to together, just the anarchy that you get involved in, and then you're spoilers. I'm not going to give it all away for you, but just is a K-pop band that's ripping off Kerry's songs and stuff.
I did all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I ended up on, I think the last thing I do with him is on the yacht.
Yeah.
And you're destroying the yacht. And that's what I said. There was a moment where it's you're breaking a flag or a pole or something, and it's kiss. I'm like, no.
I love you, River, but I hate you. I'm never going to cheat on you, though.
No, it's just, I wouldn't even work anyway.
Yeah, but no, it's so good. It's a great game, and in closing, I'd certainly recommend anyone that's got a PlayStation 5, a strong PC, or an Xbox Series X to pick it up. If you are still running an Xbox One or a PS4, maybe slow your roll because I think there is still a lot of issues, as evidenced by poor old Jono Peck there. that are running rampant in this game that might have carried from that PS4 build and what have you. So it's certainly worth picking up. Like, don't get caught up in all the noise around social media about how this game's the worst and whatever else. Yep, there's some flaws. Yep, there's some bugs, but overall, it's a fun experience. There's great characters, a great overall story. The combat's great. It's varied. You can play this game for the most part however you want to play it, which I think is cool. You know, you want to be an assassin. You want to be a bare knuckle brawler. You want to focus on shotguns and close combat. You want to use snipers. You know, whatever you want to do.
You want to be a good guy. You want to be an asshole. You want to do all the bad things. You want to do all the wrong decisions, you know?
Yeah, you want to... There's a weapon you can get in the game, which is a big dildo. You want to use that as your passive instead of that head rod. And shout out, random observation, there are so many dildos in this game. They are everywhere.
Did they patch them out? I think they did.
Because they disappeared.
Some. They disappeared. I started playing recently. They not so many anymore.
Yeah, I read in some notes in the past week what actually happened was that item in their back-end code was classified as just an uncommon item. So it's the equivalent of like a health item or a uncommon material. And that's why they were spawning so much, because it was something that you, like, the game thought was something you could use to build or craft.
Sorry, before we finish up as well, I just wanted to ask you, did you find the Batmobile?
I did not find the Batmobile, no.
Okay, so...
I need to find it now, though. That sounds great.
There's an area...
Didn't even know there was a Batmobile.
Way off the map. There's like a road and it heads to nowhere. You actually drive through the cave. It's the cave you drive through with Pan Am, I think.
Oh, yeah, and you kill that random clan in there. You have that shootout.
You got to keep going, and then there's this little compartment, this hidden thing, and then there's a guy who was a nighttime avenger where he would avenge people and stuff, and there's a black car in there. It's not the Batmobile, but you know what they're implying. He's a version of Batman.
That's so great.
And that car is so good.
I need to hunt that down.
Yeah, there's guides for you to, find it. But yeah, I just wanted to also point that out for everyone.
Yeah, I didn't even know until just now, so I might go check that out. But yeah, some of the other stuff, Skippy, the talking sentient gun that you can pick up. He's so great. He's so great. But anyone that hasn't got this gun or this game, pick the passive mode to start with, because after you incapacitate 50 people, it flips and locks to the other version, which is like a headshot only gun forever. When you can wreck shop with this gun with that mode. So after that 50 kills or incapacitations, it's going to flip to whatever the opposite was that you chose when you first found this gun. So little nugget there. Yeah, but it's great. But no, this game's good. It's good. Like, as I said, I'd score it in the 70s. I think it's a game that's worth your time. It's worth your money. And yeah, they've copped some backlash, but they've been working on it. That wasn't head in the sand stuff. They're like, all right, here's patch, here's another patch, here's another patch. It's a major patch. The game should be workable and stable now, and a lot less rampant with dildos.
Yeah, and I agree. It would be high 70s for me, maybe even low 80s. There's a lot that's wrong with it, but I can't deny the fact that it kept me playing. It kept me interested. I absolutely adored so many damn elements about this game, and that I would play it again. So I think it definitely deserves that score from me anyway.
100%. And I'd say for even for all poor JP's bugs and everything else, he seems to really enjoy this too. So I think he'd probably score in a similar vein to us. So yeah, it's worth the time. It's worth the investment. If you wanted to continue any of this discussion, obviously hit us up on them socials if you want to chat some more Cyberpunk 2077, at Jono himself, at Miss Ellie Hart, at Brendan8bit, or at We Are 8bit. If you want to send us a bit more of a long form, drop us an email, hello@8bit.net. But yeah, this has been another episode of SpoilerCast. Miss Hart, let's get on out of here, and I'm going to go find that Batmobile.
Sounds like an idea. Enjoy. It's lots of fun. I'm going to go divorce Rivers.
Needy bitch. River's not you.